Okay, I would like to say thanks the girls from TikTok for putting me on because they put those love edits on, and that's the reason why I went to see the movie. Now, I will say Mickey 17 isn't for everyone, but it was personally for me as I watched it. I personally enjoy when actors and actresses play multiple characters, such as Split, Parent Trap, The Nutty Professor, Norbit, Legend with Tom Hardy, and now Mickey 17. I would also like to say I did not watch the trailer. I just went and watched it. Also, I saw Naomi Aki. Shout out to the Naomis of the world because I'm Naomi too. But I remember her from Blink Twice, which I recently saw, as well as Robert Pattinson. And we know him from Twilight, but he was in a plethora of other things. So I was like, bump it, we'll watch it, right? So let's start. Mickey, the original, and we have to say that, gets coaxed into a business with his friend Timo. And Timo, he was in The Walking Dead. That's what my daughter told me. But anyway, what they decided to do is their business failed. So they were like, "Oh, we're gonna just take out money from a loan shark," and then the business still failed, and then they couldn't pay back the loan shark. So I believe the loan shark went and gathered them up because they couldn't pay them, and he was going to cause harm to them, like and probably unalive them. But he showed them an example, and that's what made them decide to flee. So Mickey and his friend Timo decide to sign up for this outer space program. And Mickey, who seems very soft-hearted, neurodivergent coded, in my opinion, and a people pleaser, unfortunately, does not read the contract and becomes an expendable, okay? Expendable is a person that is like a guinea pig and he passes away a plethora of times for a multitude of reasons. And he continues to get reborn through technology. Now, the first thing I will say, according to my notes, is that I do wish this was a series because I do feel like it's a great movie, but I do feel they stuffed so many plots, storylines, and themes into one movie. If they made it into a series, the writer would have been able to go further into detail for each character and maybe tell us each character's background story. I would have really enjoyed that so much. I also feel like they will be able to curate a well detailed plot in order to build a clearer climax instead of a rushed one, right? However, that doesn't diminish the greatness of the movie, and the story is very unique and creative, which a lot of movie seers as well as media consumers are asking for. And I feel like that's why I was super disappointed that not a lot of people went out and saw this because everybody was looking for that, right? A lot of people are constantly talking about how they're tired of remakes, and specifically remakes lack effort when producers, writer, directors make the remakes. So the fact that this movie was unique and organic, I would say it's an A plus for effort, absolutely, right? And it does take a while to jump in, about 30 minutes, but it continues to get better with each second of the movie. Art majority of the time imitates real life, and sometimes I do think that we're on the Truman Show. That's something that I wrote just in my notes. If you haven't watched the Truman Show, it's with Jim Carrey and it's on Hulu right now. Anywho, Mark Ruffalo's character, his name was Kenneth Marshall, and his wife, played by Toni Collette. I think her name was like Yilfa. Oh my God, I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry if I got it wrong. Side note, Mark and Toni Collette did an amazing job invoking emotion out of me. And that's how I know the writing in this movie was extremely great, as well as the acting. But I digress. Let's move forward. But anywho, Kenneth Marshall and his wife and the crew were terrible people. Kenneth Marshall was a failed president or government official turned to a cult leader. Now, they did not call him a cult leader. It was his actions that made me describe him that way, okay? So his popularity from Earth blinded the working class people, which led them to be ignorant and a part of a cult unknowingly. His wife, and the pastor used faith extremism to harm people for their own gain. And while the workers on the ship would eat slop, meanwhile, they living in luxury and took all the better resources for themselves. Mind you, it took them 4 years from Earth to the new planet. They also was telling them, don't do the shaboing boing. You can't really even have that much pleasure. All you need to do is go to work. You don't need pleasure. That's the reason why you'll gain all those great experiences when you get to the new earth, right? But they were still enjoying those luxuries as well. It was crazy. They also use science for their own gain as well. Hence why Mickey 17, or just Mickey from the original all the way to 17 and 18, was an expendable, okay? Because they were using him for viruses, like different type of animals, like they was eating him, stuff like that. It was crazy. Like he was definitely an expendable. It was just so sad. I kept seeing him get unalive, but it wasn't gory. Now, Kenneth, that's Mark Ruffalo, okay? That's the dictator or whatever. He gave hope to the little guys as well as his wife, because in the movie, most of the people went to the new planet because they had nothing to lose, okay? So there was a bit of like systematic oppression. And it did feel like different classes, right? So we have Kenneth Marshall, his wife, the church, the one percenters. They have, like, the people that work for them, right? They're on top of the pyramid. And then they have the people that work for them, such as the scientists and the security and the police like type of people and the doctors, right? And they're all mixed together, like the scientists and the doctors are kind of mixed together. And then they have the working class, like regular people that kind of work on like the ship, like mechanics, the expendables. They were on like the bottom of the barrel, but it seemed like only Mickey was the expendable. So I don't know. Side note, I loved in the movie that Naomi Aki not only was hilarious and great, I loved how her character was complex and warm, a strong leader with a moral compass that eventually encouraged others around her to be better. And I also love that Nasha, that's also Naomi Aki, had a soft spot for Mickey because I know they both wanted to be loved very desperately, but like in a good way, right? Like they yearned for one another. I was obsessed with their romance because he was obsessed with her, and that's just what I like as a Leo, duh. Now, I'm speaking for myself. I personally like when movies reference history and real life circumstances. However, reading the comments on social media, many people do not like that. There were many people on different platforms, Twitter, which is a cesspool of bots, as well as rage baiters, Reddit, Discord, and Letterboxd that were angry and very triggered. They call it woke propaganda, insulting the film. They felt like the movie was targeted towards our current government. In my opinion, that's a coincidence. However, if history repeats itself continuously, then, if the shoe fits, lace them bitches up. You know what I mean? Now, this movie is based off Mickey 7, the novel that was released in 2022. So if there was some references, then again, lace them motherfucking shoes up. Anywho, Kenneth and his group, again, his wife and the one percenters, created a narrative about these aliens. Mind you, the aliens are innocent, harmless, and indigenous to the planet and the land. They are causing more chaos and fear, which is also imitates real life to me personally, and they were trying to create a doomsday type of vibe. So the aliens, in my opinion, was a metaphor depending on your mindset, and the messaging was fear what you don't know, but don't even try to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Just follow them blindly, who are the higher ups, and you don't need the knowledge. Just obey so you can survive. So they say, right? I also feel like Mickey 17 as a movie had a lot of spiritual references, in my opinion, as well. Mickey 17 and 18 represent our higher and our lower selves. We have yin and yang. It's all about the complexities of the human experience. We have darkness and light, and how can we balance the two, which I absolutely love. I also believe that Mickey 17 being reborn through technology to kind of references science. And again, this is kind of like a sci-fi cloning and reincarnation. I absolutely love that. And looking at the characters, you could see strength, you could see people pleasing. Again, I do feel like, in my opinion, he has some neurodivergencies with him. It covers nature. Nature was the aliens and a representation, frequencies, and community. People were also mad that it had a lot of diversity, like, bitch, we live in a diverse world. So I don't understand that. But this is the ending for me. In the world where empathy is seen as a weakness, this movie was a reminder to me and other people, like the audience, that this movie is very necessary considering the world we live in. I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10, only because of the things I mentioned earlier with the writing, and I preferred it to be a series, but I absolutely enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. I know this was long. Okay, bye.